We're going to cover compositions of transformations. This is going to be more than one transformation in a single problem. So your warm-up, we got point R is translated according to this function. xy goes to x plus 2, y minus 7. From this new location, the point is then going to be translated according to xy goes to x minus 4, y minus 2. We want to write one function that's going to represent both of these points, the final transformation together. So what we do here, since they're both translations, it's a pretty easy one. We see here that we have x plus 2, and then our second, what are we doing in their second transformation? What are we doing to the x? We're subtracting 4. So what you're going to do is you're going to take that x plus 2 and that x minus 4, and you're just going to combine what's over here. What's going on? We're going to add 2, then we're going to subtract 4. So all you're doing is just, what's 2 minus 4? It's going to be negative 2. So your x minus 2 will be the final product there. Same thing with your y's. We're going to take y minus 7, and we're going to take y minus 2. And let's find out what happens. Well, we're going to take the y minus 7, so looking at it like a negative 7 minus 2 is going to give us a negative 9. So the y would go to y minus 9. So this is the first example of composition transformations. When you have a transformation, it's applied to a figure, and then another transformation is applied to that same exact figure. Or once it's transformed again. This is going to result in what we call the composition of transformations. Now you can have combinations. It's not just going to be two translations like we have in the warm-up. It could be several of them. It could be 3 of them. It could be 4 of different transformations. It could be a rotation, dilation, reflection. So let's take a look at what we have here first. So we're going to graph the glide reflection. Remember this glide reflection. Oh shoot, I forgot something here. You can suppose any transformation. You can compose any 2 transformations. I am so glad I remembered this. This is extremely important. It's underlined in bold, and we're going to highlight it. Please grab a highlighter. The order in which you perform these transformations is extremely important. You have to go in the order they tell you. You do not get to choose, or it's a very, very good chance you're going to end up with the wrong final image. Please follow the order. So in number 1, we're going to graph the glide reflection of the composition of, see here, we're going to have 4 units up. It doesn't say anything about x. 4 units up, we need to remember, is y plus 4. Up is in the positive on the y-axis. Followed by, this is also going to be important, you'll see this on the next page, followed by reflection in the the y-axis. Okay, so this y-axis reflection. So when we take a look at our pre-image here, JKL, we need to go ahead and complete the first transformation, which is a translation, and then the second of the reflection. Do not do reflection first, or you will get the wrong answer. Let's focus on one at a time. Your translation, the first one that we looked at. Let's go ahead and write translation up here. And that rule that we're going to follow, x, y is going to turn to, well, it didn't say left or right, so that means x is going to stay the same, the x coordinate, y, we're going to add 4 to it. Okay, so let's go ahead and go down the list here. We've got j is at 6, x stays the same. Y, we're going to add 4, so negative 1 plus 4 gives us positive 3. K, x stays at 10. Y, your negative 2 plus 4 is going to give you a positive 2. L, x is at 5. We're going to add 4 to the negative 3, giving us a positive 1. We're going to go ahead and graph this image. Go ahead and graph this on your own. You're going to need to label all 3 of these with the prime, please. Go ahead and graph it on your own. The new image is about to pop up. So here's after the translation. This is not your final product. Okay, we need to complete our second transformation, which we discussed over here. It even says reflection over the y-axis. So here we'll have our reflection. So we discussed with the reflection, the rule, reflection over the x and y axis, you change the opposite coordinate. So whatever axis you're reflecting over, y in this case, do not touch that coordinate. Your y is going to stay the same. Your x is going to change to the opposite. So we take a look here. Now you're not going back. You're done with this guy here. We're looking at our translated figure. Okay, we have 6, negative 3. Change the x to a negative 6. Leave the y. K prime to K double prime, because we're moving it twice, so we just add that prime onto it, change the X to the opposite sign, and leave the Y. L prime to L double prime, change X's sign, leave Y. So go ahead and graph this final product, and it does say here that we want to shade the final image. So please plot these three, mark them with the double prime, double apostrophe, and shade the image. The final image is about to pop up on the screen. As you can see, all three, what we've talked about with the rotation, reflection, translation, they're all going to be rigid motions. Are going to stay the exact same shape and size. So you see here we have the same shape with the same size. The last one with the reflection, your orientation does change, where the points are located, top, bottom, left, and right. But we have the exact same shape and size, and we have all 3 points labeled as double prime and shaded. All right, so let's take a look at the next problem. Now, the other thing I do want you guys to put on your notes, this guy right here, this is going to be your final image. After all transformations have been completed. Now the next one is going to ask us to identify, we're going to identify what transformations occurred. I've already written down the 3 coordinates, so if you guys will pause real quick, write down these 3 coordinates for me. We're going to take a look at what happened. When we went from A to A prime, we're going to go ahead and underneath A, B, and C here, we're going to write down the coordinates of A prime, B prime, and C prime. So here we're going to notice that A prime is at -1, +1, so we're going to write that down, A prime, -1, +1. B prime is at 1, 2, 3, 4, so -4, +2. And C prime is going to be at -1, +3. So first we're going to take a look at what happened here so we can identify what our first transformation was. A and A prime is kind of hard to see, so let's take a look at B and B prime. We notice that the X and the Y are going to switch places. So here our rule, X, Y, is going to go to, don't leave myself a lot of room, your Y and your X are going to switch. But we're also noticing that the 4 went from positive to negative. Over on C, the 1 went from positive to negative. That was originally the Y coordinate, so your Y coordinate is changing signs. So this is your rule. So you go and you look at this, and you look at your previous rules we've discussed, or look at the images. What happened between A, B, C, and A prime, B prime, C prime? All it did was rotate, so we know it's a rotation. And then we go look up our rules, we're going to see that this is a 90-degree counterclockwise rotation, okay, which is also be a 270-degree clockwise. And then now let's recopy down right here our prime, what we ended up with after the rotation, because we're going to compare it to the last final product here. So we're just copying down. I even had the same colors, copy that down. And let's take a look at our final ABC double prime. All right, so now we are done with, we're just looking at these two, okay? A double prime is at -1, -1. B double prime is going to be at your -4, -2. Wrote this one down wrong up here. And your C double prime is going to be at -1, -3. You take a look at what's happened here. Again, the 1, -1, this stuff with A prime and A double prime is kind of hard, so why don't we take a look at B and B prime and B double prime. X didn't do anything, but look what happened to Y. They didn't switch places. X stayed where it was, Y stayed where it was, but look, we can see that your Y changed signs. So here, what has happened is XY became X stayed the same, Y changed signs. When we take a look at this with our rules, or we look at the image, we can see it reflected over the x-axis. X-axis, X coordinate stays the same, Y coordinate changes. So this is going to be reflection, we'll just put reflect, over x-axis. So these are the 2 transformations that occurred in this composition transformation. All right, so let's go ahead and do some more here. Practice, practice, practice. We've got triangle PQR with these following vertices. We're going to graph PQR and its image after the composition of transformations described below. Now, we are going to shade the final image. Luckily, they already put the pre-image on there for us. Pay attention to letter A. Said earlier, there are these followed by words that I told you guys were going to be very, very important. We're going to have a translation described by this rule following a reflection. That following is going to tell you that the translation is the second transformation that will be occurring. The reflection over y equals x will be the first one. Okay? So let's take a look at our first transformation. So here I've already filled in the coordinates. If you guys will pause and fill those in real quick. Your first transformation, your y equals x, the rule goes to y negative x. Sorry, yx. Remember, with your y equals x, it is it's a slope diagonally. So we're going to be looking at right here, and all we're going to do is we're just going to change the x. We're going to switch their places. That was really bad. We're going to switch places of the x and the y coordinates. So p to p prime is going to become negative 4, 2. Q prime is going to become 0, 3. R prime is going to become negative 3, 5. Let's go ahead and plot that, making sure we put our primes. Go ahead, pause it, and plot it on your own. This image, the prime, is about to pop up on the screen. All right, so here is the prime. If you hear music in the background, the band's walking around the hallways playing right now. So hopefully you can hear me over it. All right, so that is our first transformation. Our second one is going to be what was listed first because of the following. So we're going to take our x and we're going to add 5 to it. So here we're going to do x plus 5, and we're going to take y minus 1. Again, we are going from the prime. We are done, completely 100% done with the first pre-image. So we're done with these guys. We're just looking right here at these two. So we're going to take negative 4, we're going to add 5 to give us a positive 1. We're going to take the 2, we're going to subtract 1 to get us 1. Okay, we can just go ahead and plot that one. 1, 1 right here is going to be p double prime, q prime to q double prime. Q, x 0, x plus 5 gives us 5, and then 3 minus 1 gives us 2. So we're going to go to positive 5, positive 2. There is your q double prime. R, we're going to take negative 3 plus 5 gives us a positive 2. And we're going to take 5 minus 1 giving us a positive 4. So positive 2, positive 4, there is our R double prime. We'll go ahead and connect your dots and make sure that you do shade it in. That is what the instructions say. Pay attention to your assignments, your quiz tests, all that stuff, because if it says shade it in, you need to shade it in. I need to know what your final product is very, very easily. All right, next, we're going to have a 90-degree clockwise. This is going to go pretty fast. There's probably going to be a lot of pausing and draw things on your own. 90 degrees clockwise, okay, so remember this is 270 counterclockwise. It's going to be a rotation, followed by, okay, there's that followed by. Following means the first one's actually second. This one is followed by, so your rotation is first, and your line of reflection, y equals negative 1, is second. So let's take a look first at our first. I've already put in the coordinates down here. Please pause and put those in there. 90 degrees counterclockwise. We need to remember, looking at our rules, again, the rotations are pretty difficult. If you want to use the patty paper, it is about the origin. So you can use the patty paper if you'd like to, or we can apply the rule. The rule is we're going to switch the x and y around, and the x is going to change signs here. So the x has changed signs, so that 2 is going to become a negative 2 in the y's position, and the negative 4 is going to roll over here. Let's go ahead and plot negative 4, negative 2. There's our p prime. Q, 3, 0. Well, your x is going to change to a negative 3 and move to the y's position. 0 just moves over. So we're at 0 on the x, negative 3 on the y. Here is our q prime. Excuse me. And then our r prime, x is going to change to a negative 5 into the y's position. Negative 3, the y is just going to move over. So we have negative 3, negative 5. There's r prime. Go ahead and connect those together. I'm going to use a straight edge. Just do it real quickly. And then now we move on to our final and last composition for this problem. We're going to take this and we're going to reflect over y equals 1, negative 1. So now we don't have a rule, okay? There's no rule to follow on this one. We just simply need to, I mean, there are ways of doing it, but rather than just do the steps, just find that line of reflection and then just count. Okay, so we're at y equals negative 1, so find our y-axis where negative 1 is, right here, and we want to cross through that point. Okay, that's the only place on the y-axis that we want to touch is that negative 1. So here's your line of reflection. So this time we're going to do the process of reflecting, then we'll read the coordinates. So we're going to take P. Okay, again, we're not dealing with this pre-image. All right, we are done with the pre-image. So we want to ignore this, and we want to ignore this guy right here. Okay, we're only focusing right here. We're going to take P prime and we're going to move to the line of reflection 1. So we need to go 1 on the other side of the line of reflection. There's P double prime. Q. All right, let's read the coordinates. So at P double prime, here's your origin. We're at negative 4 on the x. We are on the x-axis. We did not move up or down, so y is going to be your 0. Q prime, we're going to move 1, 2 to the line of reflection, keep going 1, 2 more. And here is your Q double prime. We're at 0 on the x. We did not go left or right. And we moved, on the y-axis, we're at positive 1. Always go back to that origin. If you need to put an x at that origin to remember what that is, especially with these kind of reflections, it's very, very important to always make sure you're going from there, not where the line of reflection is. All right, and then lastly, your R prime, we're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the line of reflection. Keep going 1, 2, 3, 4 more. And here is R double prime. We're going to read the coordinates. It is at negative 3 on the x and positive 3 on the y. Connect them and shade. All right, our next problem here. Let's see which colors I need. Okay, so we're going to consider the two transformations. They labeled it which one was first and second. Well, I guess actually A and B is going to be different. We're going to have a translation of 4 units to the right. So 4 to the right, remember the right is x, and it's towards the positive. And then we're going to have 2 units down. That's going to be y. Down is minus 2. And then we're going to have a 180-degree rotation. All right, so let's take a look at letter A. It says write the coordinate notation of the composition, the final rule. Okay, coordinate notation after both of these have occurred. So let's take a look first at our translation. Okay, translation rule. We see as, and I'm going to be a bad teacher here and not put x comma y, but we're just going to go ahead and write the ending result is going to be the x plus 4 and the y minus 2, what we talked about. Okay? Then what's going to end up happening is we're going to move on over to our rotation rule and take a look at our rotation rule because that's what we're doing next. Your rotation rule of 180 degrees, either direction's the exact same. All we're doing is we're going to switch the sign of both the x and the y. Now, when we head on over, what we need to do is we need to look first at what happened with our translation. Okay, so let's look at our x. Our x was an x plus 4, and our y was y minus 2. There's a reason I'm putting parentheses around it, because then when we take a look at the second transformation, the rotation, look what happened. Pretend this is your x and this is your y, okay? I'm not even pretend. Your x, we're going to change signs of. So here, sorry, your x and your y, my bad. So here, the x plus 4 is in parentheses because the translation happened first. We have to add 4 first. So that's why the parentheses. PEMDAS, order of operations. Then we create the negative afterwards on both of them. So this tells us we're adding the 4, subtracting the 2, Then we're going to change the sign. What this boils down to, okay, you're going to have x comma y, and then you're going to apply your distribution, okay, your distribution here. You're going to distribute that negative to the x, creating negative x, and you're going to distribute that negative to the plus 4. Remember, your negative times a positive gives you a negative. So in the end, that's what ends up happening. With your y, same thing. Distribute the negative to the y. You get a negative y. Distribute negative times a negative 2. You get a positive 2. So that's the most difficult part, quote unquote difficult part, is making sure that you're applying the rules in order and you're remembering your distribution when you're dealing with having to change the sign. Let's take a look at B. B wants us to do the opposite. It wants us to do rotation first. So here, A, translation was first. Here, rotation is first. So we're going to switch these and see the difference. Write it real quick. Your rotation, we already discussed, was a negative x, negative y. Then we moved over to translation this time, which we talked was the x plus 4 and your y minus 2. So what's going to end up happening here is first, your x, xy, we're going to take the coordinates and we're going to make the x negative, okay? And then we're going to make the y negative, all right? Then we're going to add in. So there's no distribution on this one. We just need to make the x negative and the y negative first. Now, guys, this plus 4 and minus 2 does not change like up here because that negative is not being applied to these. It's only being applied to the x and the y. So then that plus 4 just carries down and the minus 2 carries down. I know this can be a little confusing sounding, okay? Just ask questions, look up other videos if we have to on that one, okay? We have one more page left that we're going to talk about here, and we're going to look at a problem, look at answer choices, and explain why there might be mistakes on each one of these. A teacher is creating a test to analyze what do these students know? This is the question in the 4 multiple choice answers. A point is reflected across the y-axis and then shifted 2 units left and 4 units up. Which of the following is the image coordinates? So let's first answer the question, okay? We need to remember that the shifting over here, 2 units to the left and right is x, left is minus 2, sorry about that. And your y is 4 units up, y plus 4. So first we're going to do that, and then we're going to, first we're going to reflect across y-axis, the y-axis. Let me get my head straight here. Your y-axis is going to be change the x, leave the y alone. So let's take our first original point. Our point is at 5, negative 2. We're going to first do the reflection. I'm just going to put RE. But to REF, that we don't confuse with rotation. We've got our point of reflection, and we're going to apply the negative x, y. So it's going to become negative 5, negative 2. Then we're going to go ahead and do our translation, which was going to be x minus 2, y plus 4. There's no need in coming up with the composition rule of both of them together. If you could just do them one at a time, my opinion, it's a little bit less work. You do you though. So we're going to take the x, negative 5, we're going to subtract 2 to get us negative 7. We're going to take the negative 2, we're going to add 4 to get us a positive 2. So this is where we should find our answer, negative 7, positive 2, which would be D. So this is your correct answer. This is the bottom part saying when we make multiple choice tests, we're going to find other answer choices that are common mistakes. Oopsie, I did this instead of this. Oh, I changed the y instead of the x. That's going to be an option because we need to make sure that you see exactly what's going on so we can see, do you actually know what you're doing? So each one of these answer choices, we want to explain what was the mistake if you chose that. Well, D we know is the correct answer, so we can just put correct answer. If you take a look at A, okay, A lands at positive 3, positive 2. Well, if you take this point and you apply just the translation, okay, sorry, just the translation of -2 and +4, that's what you're going to get. So this, letter A, was if you just did the translation. Just perform that translation. Take a look at B and see if you could figure out what happened here. We went from a +5 to a -3, and then we went from a -2 to a +2. What ended up happening here is if you reversed the order, you went translation first, then you did reflection, this is where you're going to wind up at. So this one, performed in opposite order. So you're seeing how, even if we do it in the opposite order, like I discussed in the last page, you can wind up with you're most likely going to wind up with the wrong answer. Very rarely do you ever get the same answer with both of them. Now the last one here was C, -5, -2. If you take a look, we had +5, -2. Now we have -5. Look at that. That's what we had for reflection. So all for letter C, this is what you get if you only do the reflection. So this one here is just reflection. So you're seeing the common errors that are made as well, in hopes that we don't create those problems as well. Please YouTube other videos or ask your teacher if you have any questions.